All right, BMA, today is Thursday, it's January 5th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. I'm here with Chief again. Chief, how are you?
I'm good. I feel like this is, what's the opposite of a golden sombrero? Like I'm 4 for 4.
4 for 4.
Yeah,
you are 4 for 4.
Big week.
That's a nice day.
Yeah.
That's a nice day. That's a big week. We did tease this yesterday on our episode. We had a fun episode yesterday, me, you, and Danny.
Yeah.
We did tease it that we're going to be talking about the train system.
Yeah, high-speed rail, like travel in
High-speed
general,
rail.
because this is, and I think I said this yesterday too, or like, I know it's one of those things that I can tweet and it's like automatic 10,000 likes.
Yeah.
And then like all the discussions. And that's kind of where I was coming from. I didn't really I don't have like I've done research on it since then, so I'm kind of formulating an opinion about it. But I didn't really have, like, people are like staunchly in one camp or the other and like arguing still. They've been arguing in the mentions of that tweet. I had to mute the conversation for about a week now.
Yeah.
Because people care about this issue and it's fucking crazy to me. But
it gets the people going.
yeah, it does. Because you see that map. There's something about seeing that map with the different color lines. Like Chicago's kind of the hub and just kind of fans out and connects all these places. And you're like, I can get to fucking anywhere.
And you knew what you were doing. All those
yeah.
fucking Southwest flights were all delayed and baggage was getting lost
Fucking
at a rapid
everywhere.
rate. And you're like, hey, I'm just going to tweet this out and get people going.
And the real part of that is there's no place on earth that I hate more than going to the airport. I fucking hate the airport. I don't mind flying. Once I'm like airborne, I'm good. I'll fall asleep. I'm fine. But just like the lines, the security, the lack of food, especially O'Hare. O'Hare fucking stinks.
See, I don't know, dude. There's what's that, like Newark? Like you're like boxed in. Like they only have like their like different.
Yeah.
And I say that because that's where we go the most. They only have like their certain. Like, there's no like real places. Like there's no name brand places. It's just like Newark branded places.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying
You
to.
hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're trying like McDonald's for food. Or
Yeah.
something?
Like there's no like I know LaGuardia just had a new hub where you could just
LaGuardia is fucking incredible.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And they
you
have
get like regular American brands,
and you just pay at your station. There's no waiters or anything. There's no wait.
Exactly.
Like there's plenty of room.
You can get a Chili's or something like that.
Yeah, and
that's what I'm saying. You get that at.
They have this like
O'Hare.
one like great fucking diner place where it's like, LaGuardia has turned into a place where I'm like, I don't even care if I'm delayed.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I used to say
Very
that about
nice.
Charlotte. Charlotte was like, if I get delayed, they got the piano, the rocking chairs, they got great food. Like I'll sit here for a few hours and not even mind.
It's true.
So if you do the airports right, they're better. But my O'Hare experience is just like I hate O'Hare. So
I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all.
really,
No.
compared to LaGuardia.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never had.
Maybe we should do a little airport tour.
Well, thankful.
We'll
Maybe.
go out to Denver Airport. We'll see what the fuck's going on there. That was
Remember
like
when PMT was going to do that? That was like their.
their
I think they
airport-
did do a couple of them. Actually.
Airport reviews?
Airport reviews. Yeah. That's a great idea on paper,
That's-
but executing that is a bear.
Because like once you're there, you don't want to be like, all right, get the camera out.
Yeah,
Like, let's fucking,
and it's like,
yeah.
let's just fly back. That's just that's
But
tough.
if you're traveling places anyways,
But I think their whole thing was
Was
they
like,
were just
we're
going
gonna
to
go
fly to
and do it.
airports, do the turnarounds. Yeah,
like what was that Tom Hanks movie, The Terminal? You
Yeah,
just never
yeah.
leave.
exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
But I like the idea of taking you around to different places and be like, let's go explore the Denver airport.
yeah,
Because that one specifically has got that weird ass mural and
it's a massive airport.
yeah, we
too.
did. It's huge.
Like
Like
it
it's
was like a cornerstone of Tuesday episodes that we do.
way back. Yeah, I think that was 2019. I think we did that one. Yeah. So and it's been so long that people always be like, you should do an episode on the Denver airport.
Yeah,
It's like,
It
well,
has.
let me see if I can dig that up for you.
It has.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into it, I do want to say whether if you're traveling in an airport or if you're on a high-speed rail, you should be enjoying some Miller Lite. Because from holiday gatherings, airports, office parties, fireside conversations, and football Sundays, winter means more moments with the coolest people in your life. Make these moments even better with Miller Lite, the great tasting light beer for people who love beer. A new year is a perfect time for friends, family, and a great tasting light beer. It's Miller time. Dependable. It's always dependable, right?
It is. And, airport beers too, like those hit. So that wasn't on your list, fireside chats, whatever. Having that airport beer and like that Miller Lite at the airport, we were like, all right, because you don't want to have something like heavy or like you want to have that light, crisp Miller Lite. It's
brewed different.
It is, and it is
brewed for taste.
It is my absolute favorite. That's not even a joke. It's the beer. I drink it more than anything else, probably combined.
Yeah,
it's great.
brewed for taste. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/redline to find the delivery options near you. Or you could pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, one more thing, too, before we get into it. I would also make a programming note. Tomorrow there will be an episode. We're going to do a couple bonus episodes on Fridays here and there now. We're 2 months away from the Chicago Mayoral race.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've been following this show from the inception, which is 2019, I think 14 people ran for mayor in 2019.
And did you get, how many did you have?
I had six of the candidates on.
Yeah.
I didn't have the winner, who obviously was Lori. She didn't come on. I forget, we actually were close to getting her, but it didn't work out. But we're going to kind of be previewing that. I think we're going to get some candidates on. I don't know if we're going to have one on every week, but we're going to try.
Is your boy coming back?
Who?
Vallis.
Well,
friend of the program at this point.
Well, he's been on. Yeah, he's been on twice already.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a great interview. The more recent one I thought was a spectacular interview. So I think if you're interested, you should go back and listen.
And no,
to
friends,
that too.
I'm an unbiased journalist, Chief. That's that's what we're doing.
You're right. You'll ask the hard hitting questions,
exactly.
even if
Exactly.
Paul Vallis.
But no, and it's not even going to be strictly candidates either. I'm just my interview tomorrow, who I don't want to say just in case something doesn't happen and it doesn't work out. But he's not running for mayor, but he's got a good outlook on the city, and we're going to have a good preview on the field and whatnot. So and the city as a whole. So not so much for the people outside of Chicago, I don't think, unless if Chicago local politics interest you and you're outside the city. But if you're in the city and you want to know what's going on, that will be kind of a bonus mini series here that I will be running on Fridays.
Well, I think based on my mentions from people, that there is a lot of national interest in what goes on in Chicago.
Seems like it.
People take a lot of drive-by pot shots at us.
They love to do it.
They love to say what a war zone it is,
They
this
love
and
to
that.
do
So
it.
if you want to get some actual information about what goes on here and what the problems are and potential solutions, this is a thing to listen to.
It is. So first guest tomorrow, and I'm hoping we'll hope to get one every week, but we'll see. And maybe every other week. I don't know exactly what the plan is. We're just going to kind of play it by ear because, like I said, it is a bonus just to give people a little more listening material on Fridays.
Yeah, it'll be great.
All right, Chief. High-speed rail.
High-speed rail. So this is, like we said, it's like a hot button, hotly contested thing. And it seems, I think part of the issue is, or part of the appeal of it is you look around the world and a lot of the other countries have it. So Europe you can get anywhere via train all over from, you can take it from London to Paris all the way to Eastern Europe and back, and they have high-speed rail. China has an incredible high-speed rail system. Japan is probably the pioneers of doing that. And it's like, you look at the United States and it's like, well, we don't have any of that shit. And we were the ones who kind of invented the train industry. It's like one of my favorite historical kind of robber baron industrial revolution stories is Cornelius Vanderbilt. You know that name, Vanderbilt University.
We've got into them before.
Have we? Okay.
Yeah.
So Cornelius Vanderbilt was this self-made guy who was in shipping, and he was I think he was homeless at 14, kind of raised himself. When he was working on the docks, he bought himself a little ferry. Then he bought a second ferry. Then he bought a big shipping boat. And then by the time he was 50 or something like that, he was he got the name the Commodore. It was he was the shipping magnate in the United States and probably the world. He had this fleet of ships. And then he saw some trains and he's like, that's the future. He sold all of his ships and went heavy into trains and then was the train guy. And it was I fucking love that story. So then, we had the great grand train stations in New York and Chicago. And if you think about, era before the car came along, you know why the baseball schedule is the way it is?
No.
Where they play 3-4 games at a time? No. Is because the travel was hard. It was hard for the White Sox to get to New York to play the Yankees. So when you're going to take this train, it's going to take, 8, 9, 10 hours back then, maybe longer. Well, you're not going to just then pick up after the game and go to the next place like you would for hockey or something else. You're going to sit there and you're going to play 4 games. And they just kept that tradition and that was just because when baseball was really humming, when growing, the only real means of transportation, because there were no planes, there were no highways, was to take the train. So that's why you play 3-4 games at a time for a series. Yeah. And so we were like on ahead of the game, and we had like the Transcontinental Railroad, which is like a famous project. And then we just went away from it. And all these other countries kind of pass us by. And we have it's such a complicated system, because you have these rail lines that go through all these public lands, and the government will use it for, like, Amtrak is like you've heard of Amtrak, right? It's like quasi-public. It's like a government-sponsored enterprise, a GSE. And it's like somewhat owned by the government, somewhat private. But most of the rails that they travel on, they don't own. Okay, so it's like, hey, well, like some other freight line owns that rail. So then you're having to pay, if you're trying to go from Chicago to Cleveland or something, and you're on an Amtrak. Amtrak doesn't own that rail line. They own the car, and then they lease out the rail line. So it's basically like impossible for them to make money, and then it doesn't go super fast. And then they also have to like give preference or deference to like the bigger freight companies that are shipping coal and gas and oil and, you know, fucking corn and all that other shit. They get preferential treatment on like the rail times and things like that. So it's just never worked. So people who are very anti U.S. high-speed rail, they're like, well, it doesn't fucking work. Look at Amtrak. They're always, you know, losing money. There's only one stretch of rail that is profitable, fast, and that Amtrak owns. And that's the Northeast Corridor. And you can go from Washington, D.C. to Boston in like 6 hours just on that rail line. So then the people fighting back the other way are like, well, if they had their own rail lines, then we could do that system and just spread that out everywhere, and then it would work. But then the other objection is, you know, how I mentioned like Europe, China, Asia with their high-speed rails. We don't have the population density. Like all their people are kind of like in the cities, and they kind of built their cities and designed their, like, they don't really have suburbs the way that we have suburbs. So then you'd have to have people being like, all right, well, I'm going to drive into Chicago, get on the train, and then go to St. Louis, you know? So it's like, they don't really, is that, how practical is that? So then it becomes like, what is the actual demand for high-speed rail? What would you do? Because you're a road trip guy.
There's absolutely a demand. You're telling me they're worried that someone from, in Chicago specific again here, someone from Palatine won't drive into downtown to take the train to St. Louis?
That's what one of the objections is that people would rather just get on 55.
No, I think people would do that.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was thinking about you, because I think of you. You love a road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's high speed.
Yeah. So
like if you can get there faster in half the time.
You're going 220 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That is like another thing where I don't agree with this either. Because how many times, I don't know, like maybe this is maybe specific to, again, hyper specific to people coming in from the western suburbs on 90. But you get past O'Hare and you're just in the worst fucking traffic on 90, and then zipping over your left shoulder is the blue line from O'Hare. And it's like, I'm going to fucking kill somebody. I'm going to strangle somebody as that train goes by.
I think it depends. Yeah. I think it all depends. I'm a road trip guy when I'm with other people.
Right.
So there's something about a road trip if you're going up and it's like, if I'm going to, you know, if we're going to St. Louis and it's me, you, and Harry's going, if White Sox Dave's going, I'll take the train alone. But, like, you know what I mean? Everyone can go on and there's camaraderie and we're talking about ideas. We're tossing, you know, content ideas around. Like, sure.
It's like found time because you don't have to, like, pay attention to anything.
Exactly. But if it's just me and I have to drive alone, I can't look at my phone. I can't do anything else. I'm literally 10 and 2.
Yeah.
Like,
that sucks.
Yeah. Like worrying about fucking deer and shit. Mm-hmm. I'll just hop on the train, cut down half the time, like
cake,
no brainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I kind of agree with you on that. And then the big objection that people have, they're always like, it's going to cost too much. It's going to cost too much. And you look at, there's like a U.S. high-speed rail authority where they're like an advocate for high-speed rail. And I call bullshit on their number. So their number is that they say that they can build this network of high-speed rails across the country for $33 billion. That seems so low that it's laughable, like insanely low.
33 bill?
Yeah. That's like Bezos could build that like that if that was the cost. I think it would cost way more than that. And if you look at California's building one now that's going to connect LA to San Francisco, and I read an article that was published in February of 2022. They had to add another $5 billion to they were off by their estimates. $5 billion. It's honestly like, this is the other thing where I'm like, money's fucking fake. Okay. Like, just fucking find it.
Yeah.
And so, but it was $105 billion to build it from LA to San Francisco, and it goes up through that valley. And you know, your travel time becomes, instead of trying to do the drive, which is insane, it's now, I think they have it at like 2.5 hours to go from San Francisco to LA, which cuts it in half, basically.
It's
huge. And
especially for those people who, from what I understand, California traffic is just the bane of all their existences.
My buddy Russ, that he used to live out there, and this is like instrumental to like his career. Okay, so Dave always says he doesn't exist. He's like, he doesn't exist. But anyways, so Russ, he's like very successful now. But he moved there from Connecticut and didn't know anybody. And he got so tired of sitting in traffic that he would get to work at like 5:30 and leave work at like 7:30 just to avoid the traffic. So he was putting in like 14-hour days, not because he was like trying to like just be like the hardest working guy in the world. He's like, I just can't fucking sit in the traffic.
Can't do it.
And he lived like he could jog home faster. You know, he lived like 10 miles, but it would take him like an hour and a half. It was like fucking insane. So California's traffic is
bad,
really bad.
It's bad.
And you know, so now being able to like connect like two major hubs where you can get down for a meeting and then get back in the same day with no problem. It's like, sounds like a very nice little luxury. And it could be a nice thing for tourism too. If you're like, hey, I'm going to go to California. Well, you know,
totally.
Yeah. So, and that kind of so I think that kind of makes sense. The whole national network, it gets a little bogged down. But so that rail line costs $105 billion. I don't know if it'll make their, who owns it, if California's going to make money off it or what. But it seems like something that, I like cars, I like planes, but like having more options is always better. Who wouldn't want more options?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so then you have the Cato Institute. Now the Cato Institute is like I would say more of like a right-wing think tank kind of thing. And they put their own estimate on what a high-speed rail would cost. What do you think the number is?
Oh boy.
If the people who want it say it's $33 billion, and the people who don't want it say what?
$894 billion.
$1 trillion. Okay. $1 trillion. And I saw, they said, and they were specifically talking about Obama had pitched something like this, and it was like his specific high-speed rail plan would cost $1 trillion. And so then I've seen other estimates that say around $500 billion to do the full network. Yeah. Now you can't do, it still makes more sense to do like cross-country travel by plane, because that's like a 6-hour flight, New York to LA, because this would still take like, I think it was 18 hours. Who wants to be on the plane for 18 hours? Or be on a train for 18 hours. But going like Chicago to New York, that's only, I think they said that they could do that probably in 5 if they built this. So that's basically, to me, that's a wash. Because if you're having to get to the airport an hour early, you're fighting traffic to get to the airport, then you get to LaGuardia, and there's no way to get downtown. So if you can go from like the Union Station here to Penn Station in New York, instead of having like Ubers, like you're actually going to save a little bit of time.
Yeah, you would, for sure.
So like that to me makes sense. And then you don't have to worry about, you're not worried about like the security, like you just hop right on. And, you know, you have all these people who are like kind of still afraid of flying. So then it's like, all right, like this sounds like a great option. Like we should just kind of pursue this. And again, like I throw the money objection away, because I'm like, money is fake. Whenever they need money for stuff, the government, whoever, they just find it. So we have the economic collapse. Wall Street needs, $600 trillion, whatever they got. Here it is. When you need it for like an infrastructure project, like, well, who's going to pay for that? And it's like, well, shut the fuck up. And then it's like, well, and the same thing with like Ukraine. You know how much we've given to Ukraine so far?
A lot. 100?
I think it's getting close to that. It was like the most recent one. I pulled up an article and said it was $48 billion in 2022 directly to Ukraine and different, just gifts. Like, who knows where that money goes, but it's 48 billion. So it's like, well, who voted on that? Like, we have, if we have like just a fuck ton of money laying around, let's put it into something that could help, us theoretically. And I think we might have talked about one of these conspiracies, which you should bring back up here too. And then I would say the other main objection to this is the eminent domain. You know what eminent domain is? Didn't we talk about this recently?
I don't know if we did.
Okay. Right? It came up like someone was using it wrong, right?
It's like land grabs you guys were is that
Yeah. So we were talking about the homesteaders and the land grabs in like the different parts of the West. But eminent domain is like the government can come in and like, hey, we're building a highway on your land. And they're like, well, no, like I live here. And they would be like, well, sorry, like eminent domain, we'll pay you market value, but you got to get the fuck out. And so people are like, well, you can't just be taking all this private land from people. And I don't know how feasible this is, but we have this unbelievable interstate highway system. It's really fucking incredible. And that was like, we used to do those, what they do. Eisenhower. Right? Like, he was a surveyor for the military, and he was like very hands-on in building the interstate highway system. We got it passed in the 50s when we had a gazillion dollars post-war. Like, we were just rolling in money. But they built that system. And it was like, yeah, no one really like even batted an eye. And now look at us. Like, it's like this great, like, it is like a marvel of engineering and like, I don't know, political capital. It must have just been easier to get things done back then. And everybody loved Eisenhower, probably the war hero and all that. But built like this unbelievable network connecting every single place in the country via highway. Yeah. That is really remarkable. And so my question is, if we already have like that land reserved for highways, why don't we just, like, if you have like the 80-90, right? Why don't you just build a fucking high-speed rail right next to it? Can't you do that?
Maybe, but I don't think people bitched back then like they do now, dude. And am I right or wrong?
I have no idea, but I think it was probably less politically toxic too.
Yeah.
Like, where,
yes, dude. Like, yeah. I mean, I know for a fact, like, I mean, just once again, talking locally, like, I'm pretty sure 290 just like bulldozed through
Ben's.
Little Italy.
Oh, Little Italy. Yeah.
It's just like smoked Chicago's Little Italy neighborhood. And like that kind of like,
well, and that
we're super fucked up because
like, oh, we'll move.
Yeah.
They're building a highway here. America needs this highway, so we better move. And I remember talking to this about like my Nana before she passed one time. So she passed in 2014, but she grew up, and my grandpa did too, super poor. And like her dad ended up being a plumber, but super poor South Boston. They had like a whole mess of kids, one little dinky bathroom, like maybe I think a 3-room apartment for 8 people, like very poor. And that was like through the Depression. Like, she grew up as a teenager through the Depression. And then World War II happens and they come back, and she was like, the way I grew up and that was the way most children of immigrants back then were growing up in these like inner city, like poor areas. She's like, when we had a house, like when she got married and started having kids in the late 50s and 60s, late in the 50s, she was like, a white picket fence and a house with like a little yard was beyond my wildest imaginations when I was, 16 in 1930, whatever. Yeah. Because it was just unattainable. And I do think that there was like, maybe that kind of plays into what you're talking about too, where it's like, well, we have it, like, the Depression was so bad that it was like, we're not going to complain. And then you go to World War II and it's like, we come back and like, we're not complaining about shit. Like, this life is fucking good compared to what it was before. And I think that probably made it easier to push through some of these big projects because no one was worried about the money because, we talked about that episode, what the fuck happened in 1971. We went out, but like, it seems like everybody just kind of had money and everything was more affordable. So if you were a teacher, you weren't like sweating about like these infrastructure bills because you have to pay for your own equipment, your own school supplies. Like, everything was just taken care of back then. So we should figure out a way to get back to that. And maybe if we have this huge infrastructure project building out all these rail lines, that could create more jobs, more income, more everything. And if you can do it, if Amtrak can do it from DC to Boston, if you have private companies or quasi-private companies having their own dedicated lines where they own it and they're not leasing it, then the profit margins would be good enough to make it economically viable. Because I think that there is something, you always make fun of me when I use this word, but like romantic about like, I'm going to get on the train, I'm going to take it from Chicago to Denver and just see America like at ground level, all the amber waves of grain, just go across the country and check it out. Because I think that is kind of a nice way to travel. And I don't mind being on the plane, but like you are cramped. Everybody's just fucking cramped in there. And if the airlines had a genuine competitor for public transportation city to city, which they don't have now, maybe they would try to make the air travel a little nicer. Maybe the seats get a little bit bigger. Maybe, maybe it's just like little things where another thing of how it used to be, instead of trying to just cram as many people in and all that. And then the big advocates for this are saying it's like an environmental play too, which is probably worth mentioning, that it's like, oh, you're not going to have the jet fuel. You're going to have less people traveling by car, less emissions, all that. But the real reason it won't get done is the real reason it died in the first place way back when. And I think we talked about this maybe a little bit in 2019 too, the General Motors streetcar conspiracy. Do you remember that? So as a refresher,
San Francisco, right?
San Francisco, but cities all over the country. Mm-hmm. But San Francisco is the only one where they still kind of like, if you watch old Full House reruns, they still have those trolley cars.
Yeah.
But if you look at like old footage, and they'll even show it in like Godfather 2, you'll see some of these rail cars, and there were rail cars running all over every major city as like a form of public transportation. Same thing in like the if you watch Gangs of New York, the DiCaprio movie, mm-hmm. like there's a scene where he's in a rail like a rail car in New York too. And that was like the mode of transportation. So the General Motors streetcar conspiracy is that General Motors, Firestone Tire, Standard Oil, and and Mack trucks, okay, they pooled their money together through like different subsidiaries so they could wash their hands of it, and bought up all of like the streetcar and some of these other railway lines and literally lit them on fire. It's like, hey, we're shutting it down. We're literally lighting these streetcars on fire. So now you have to buy a car. So you have to put the Standard Oil gas in your car. You have to buy Firestone tires, and you better get a General Motors car, because otherwise you're fucked shit out of luck. And if you look at California, especially way back in the day, when that city was really booming kind of at the end of this, like New York, Chicago, those were built pre-car. LA was like kind of nothing until the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So they were designing it so you could have all this public transportation that would take you from the suburbs and bring you right in. And they were like, no. We are not going to have that. We're going to have this highway system, and we're going to destroy this public transportation. So everyone has to be miserable in this 4-hour long traffic every day while they're using our products. And that was that. And that's how they destroyed that industry. So now if you fast forward to today, you would have the airlines lobbying against this endeavor, this high-speed rail. You'd still have gas company, big oil companies doing it. You still have the big Ford, all the car companies doing it. So the lobbies are so powerful, and they have so much money to splash around in Washington, that this thing, it could be the most slam dunk project of all time. It won't get done. It won't get done. There's just no way these companies would kill it. So I'm not holding my breath that, there are some being built. I mentioned the California one. There's also a high-speed rail being built that's going to link Houston to Dallas with, I think, just one stop in between. I don't know where that stop's going to be, but that's going to be one. There's one from Miami to Fort Lauderdale that's in 2023. They're finishing it to Orlando. And that's about it as far as high-speed rail. And there's no real concrete plans to connect any of those lines or make it a national line. But it's like the one that doesn't exist that makes the most sense to me. Can you imagine why isn't Vegas just like the casino companies just funding it? Be Vegas to LA. Yeah. Or Vegas to Phoenix. Be like, come on up here. Get as drunk as you want. Come on up. Get as drunk as you want. come into our casinos. They might operate it for free, just bringing all those people out.
You're right.
And like that, they should really try to figure out, like, and let's say that cost that rail line, let's say it cost them $50 billion. I bet you they would make that back in like 5 years.
It's responsible.
It is responsible.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about the car, although unless they're like worried that people wouldn't stay in the hotel.
Yeah.
They just come in and leave.
Yeah.
So that maybe that's part of the problem. But that, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. Like, you're going to increase your foot traffic like 10x.
Well, Elon's doing the Hyperloop, the Hyper thing.
Did that ever happen? Like,
I
it was supposed to be like underground,
yeah,
right?
I seen a video of the one, and I think it was, where was it at? I saw it somewhere.
Hyperloop.
I forgot what was in it. It was in Vegas. Yeah, it was in Vegas.
Oh, it was. Okay. I remember reading one about Chicago was going to take you out to O'Hare too.
Yep. That was a thing.
Yeah.
I think it was Vegas. I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless.
It would just be cool. I would just like to, we haven't built anything cool in a long time in America.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when was the last time we did something like, that's awesome? Like, I'm
fucking sick.
like landed on the moon. It's probably the last time we did anything like sweet.
Yeah.
And who knows if we even did that. so
We did. We talked about
yeah,
that
I know.
one.
Yeah, that's the only thing. So I want us to have some big fucking endeavor. And it's like, you listen to that Kennedy speech where it's like, let's just decide to go to the moon. And it was like all the other projects that like came out of that, all this like the microwave, all this other technology that we did, because we're like, we're going to dedicate fucking everything to going to the moon. We should just do that again. I don't even care what it is. Just something cool. If it's high-speed rail or something else, I don't know. But make it cool and get it done.
I'm in.
All right.
I'm in.
I like that.
I mean, and everyone's like, oh, it's too much. Like, whatever.
What?
We spend money. Like, I would use it. And
money is not even real.
That's not.
Money is not even real. And it's like, whenever we need money, COVID relief money, here it is.
Yeah.
And now that's why our inflation is kind of out of
true.
control. But
we say that, but you're exactly
But
right.
it's also just not, it's just not real. And if you just maybe cut things out of other programs and put it towards this, because everybody's wasting money anyway. So
like, we're obviously speaking.
We're idiots.
Joking.
Yeah.
But people are going to be so mad that we said that.
Yeah, it is fake. Money is fake. I'm not even joking about that. It's just a fiat currency.
All right, then. That's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
High-speed rail.
High-speed rail. Let us know what you think. Should we get this thing?
We should put this to a poll.
Yeah, we should.
Would you choose this over a road trip?
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how many people would take this if it was 2.5 hours to St. Louis, or if it was 6 hours to New York.
Yeah, but even like, Indianapolis to Cincinnati, and you would think like all the sports teams would be like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I know when the Capitals play the Flyers, they go by train. And when the Rangers play the Flyers, they often go by train too, because it's just like a little cheaper, a little easier.
Yeah.
Just to figure out.
For sure. All right, then. That's it, everybody. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. So we will see you then if you want to hang out. If not, we will be back for the draft on Monday. See you guys then.